Hi everyone. First of all, I'd like to give a big welcome to my new subscribers. Secondly, thanks to the Wolf Pack for reminding me where one of the sections of this video is. It's from quite an old video on Professor Parks' channel, and I knew I'd seen the section about the Nuremberg Trials before, but I just couldn't remember where it was, so thanks for that. I've also added a subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of the videos. It looks a bit shoddy at the moment, but I will sort it out at a later date. But please click that button if you're not subscribed already. Thank you. Anyway, in this video, Sleeping Warrior states that the Iron Age was in the 1800s. He also gets the Nuremberg Trials mixed up with the Milgram Experiments. Then he goes on to insult some PhDs. Enjoy.
Before the Plimsoll line existed, right, there was a problem with boats that were basically laden in England. And this is when we were in our Iron Age, when we were making all of our boats out of steel and very little wood. But we were making boats out of steel. We were loving the Iron Age because we were building these bigger, stronger, faster vessels that could basically get stuff more.
Out of curiosity, when is the Iron Age?
Wasn't it? I think from memory, I think it was late 19th century. No, 18th century.
Okay. Do you believe that scientists hold themselves over other people?
Yes, absolutely. That white coat. Do you know what the Stanford experiment is, or the Milgram experiment?
It basically is, I can't remember if the Stanford, I think, is the prison yard, and the other one was the sign of the shocks, where someone with a
people in white coats assert their prowess over another person, and the other people will do as they're told when they shouldn't do, because they believe that they're subject to an authority that was demonstrably not true in there. That's why the Nuremberg trials took place. The Nuremberg trials were to punish, or they were trials because they were using experimental, I'll not use the word vaccines, but experimental drugs on humans to see what the effect was. And they knew it was wrong, but they did it anyway because their defense was, it's just my job.
But the Nuremberg trials are because of the fact that Nazis killed a whole bunch of Jews and others.
No. The Nuremberg trials proved that people will, when they are subject to authority, so police officers subject to their sergeants, their inspectors, their chief constables, if you have doctors that have got the British medical BMA pushing against them or whatever, if you are subject to authority, you will conform to keep your job. Even if you know it's wrong.
I don't think that's the Nuremberg trials, but I'll give you that. I think that's just a misunderstanding.
They were basically forced to experimentally validate tests of drugs on humans, even though they knew that they were killing them.
The Nuremberg trials were putting Nazis on trial for the mass extermination of 6 million people.
No,
there were no scientific experiments about this. They were put on trial because they were
using experimental drugs on humans, knowing that they shouldn't be doing it and knowing it was killing them. And it was because they were told to do it. And they were like, that's not a defense. So
this is why the Nazis,
following instructions.
This is what you believe the Nuremberg trials at the end of World War II about Nazis. That's what you believe those trials were
about. Not about Nazis. It was about the conformity, the obedience to authority, giving people experimental drugs, knowing it was killing them in the name of research, science.
When were the Nuremberg trials?
It was about 30 years after the Second World War ended. It wasn't to do with the mass extinction of the Jewish nation, as you implied or said. It wasn't to do with that.
But it was the Nazis who were convicted.
Yes, it was the Nazis that were convicted, but it wasn't. It was to do with. I'm not even explaining. Right. They will do what science tells them if they believe that science is the authority, because it was just my job. The Nuremberg trials established that There is an obedience to authority, a conformity to authority. The Milgram experiment demonstrates it. Well, that's science, but people will kill somebody because the Milgram experiment showed it. They will keep applying the shocks, knowing that the guy's dead. It's not the Nazis killing the Jews. It is the prisoners that were being experimentally tested on by different therapies.
I think you need to Google what the Nuremberg Trials were, because that's not the Nuremberg Trials.
I'm not interested. I'm not bothered. What I'm pointing out is the point that you said: does science hold itself in a position where it thinks it's better than other people? And the answer is, it absolutely does.
It does.
Yes.
Why do you think that's the case?
I've just
because I can tell you
examples.
as a scientist. I can tell you as a scientist, I don't.
No, yeah, but you're not a scientist, though. Respectfully.
I would disagree with that statement.
That is.
But you haven't got any supporting evidence that he is. I mean, look at what's his name, PhD Tony. Like I said, he walks around his field with his gravimeter. He hasn't got a clue what he's measuring, but he still thinks it's gravity, even though gravity's not been a force since 1915.
But what I want to know is, you believe that PhD Tony is attempting to swindle people for money?
Yeah, he's a lying. He's a lying, deceiving piece of shit.
He's okay. Why?
Because he tells people that he's a scientist. There was a girl he was having a conversation with that was a cashier in a supermarket, I think it was, or a shop. And she said, "What's the difference between what you're doing and what I'm doing?" And he said, "Well, what do you do?" He said, "Well, I'm a cashier in a shop or a supermarket, whatever it was." And he said, "Yeah, that's not science." And she said, "But why not?" And he said, "Because like science is involved with doing science." And she said, "But why is it that when you're basically walking around your field with your gravimeter, how is that any different to me using my till?" I nearly fell off my chair in glee, because that is a totally valid question to ask. He thinks that they're somehow different, and she was asking why, and he didn't give her a good explanation. But I can tell you why they're the same, because he's got no idea what he's measuring, but he believes he's measuring something, and she's got no idea how that till works, but she's calculating up the bill for the customer, right? Well, when that girl asked him, what is the qualifying thing that
why
makes
does that bother you? Why does it bother you so much that he is, to the point that you are literally calling him a lying piece of shit?
He is a lying piece of shit because he knows he's not doing science, but he tells people he is. Conspiracy Cats, by being in this topic, knows that gravity is not a force. We've had it out with him loads of times. He knows it's not.
Is Conspiracy Cats a lying piece of shit?
Yeah, because he's teaching children stuff that he knows is not true because he gets paid to do it and it's in the national curriculum.